Hey guys, I haven't made a video in a while. So I made a video like well over a year ago now about getting kicked out of my old apartment and just kind of like how much that sucked. And I was really disappointed at the time because I had spent like a lot of time decorating it. But long story short, I did find a new apartment. I'm actually in the same neighborhood and I've been here since like May 2021. And as dramatic as I was in that last video where I was evicted or whatever, I will say it did work out for the best. This place is better in pretty much every way. So interior decorating has always kind of been one of my interests. I'm not very good at it, but like I enjoy attempting it. But like where I live and like my space is very important to me, especially now that I permanently work from home. So I kind of need it to look like, one, aesthetically pleasing and pretty, and two, it needs to be extremely functional and it needs to be extremely easy for me to do everything because I'm extremely lazy. And if something's not easy for me to do, I don't do it. So I've been in this apartment for well over a year at this point, and I think it's finally to a place where I'm comfortable doing a little like apartment tour video. Now I'm just one person, so it's kind of difficult for me to carry my camera around. I don't like the style of like carrying your camera around and talking about things. So I'm just gonna like, how about I'm the talking head. I'm the talking head. This is the talking head portion. And I'm gonna speak over clips of my apartment. Sound good? Cue the EDM B-roll. Welcome to my one-bedroom condo located in the heart of the Toronto gay village. I think it's about 700 square feet. So my style is sort of a mix of a lot of things. There's elements of like mid-century modern and I guess boho you would call it. Mostly just because those are popular trends right now, so it's easy to find like affordable things in those styles. But I also try to use more color than either of those styles usually have. I'm also kind of tacky and not overly concerned with like having taste. I just don't think it's that serious, you know? Like I watch some of those architectural digest videos and they're so pretentious and the people kind of hate everything.
Welcome to my Soho loft.
It's a three-legged table with these beautiful like oblong-shaped legs.
I just rather have fun and be like tasteful. Now this is a rental apartment, so hypothetically every change I've made should be reversible. But I'm also one of those people who kind of feels like you're never gonna get that deposit back anyway. Is it really worth it to live in a place for years that you don't like, being afraid to put a TV on the wall and then end up like just not getting back your deposit anyway? Especially in like a modern condo like this where there's no ornamentation or anything. If you don't put anything on the walls and just leave them bare because you're afraid to put a nail in them, like you really just kind of end up living in this cold white box. Like I know a lot of people do that kind of like modern minimalism kind of trend. I think it's on the way out now, but I'm much more, I don't like clutter, but I am definitely leaning more towards being like a maximalist. I kind of like it when there's a lot of stuff to look at. I want a house to represent me, you know? So when you first enter the apartment, you see this little entryway. For probably the first year I was living here, it was kind of an eyesore. This empty, plain white area with a really cheap plastic shoe rack. And it was so visible from everywhere else in the apartment that it just kind of pissed me off every day. So I got a very slightly better bench from Amazon for like under $100. Just something that you can sit on, put your shoes on. And I painted one of these trendy arches. Yeah, I know it's a trend. I know a lot of people don't like them, but it makes this area have a shit ton more personality. And if I end up eventually not liking it, it's really easy to paint over. So shove it, apartment Nazis. The entrance leads directly into the kitchen. And I'm really happy with my kitchen, actually, because most condos in Toronto are severely lacking in counter space. I do cook, so it's really nice for me to have enough space to like lay things down, space to cut stuff up, space for all my appliances, because like I said, I'm very lazy. So if I put away my Ninja Pot, then I'll never ever take it out to use it. It has to be out. Probably my favorite possession is this espresso machine. For me, it's a pretty big splurge, right? Like, But I made it after spending about like 6 months working remotely, drinking bad coffee. And now the coffee I make is basically as good as any coffee shop. It's sure a hell of a lot better than Starbucks. So I don't regret this purchase at all. Like, in fact, I probably should have had it earlier. I didn't really make too many changes to the kitchen. I did switch out the handles because the handles that were here were just kind of this ugly, kind of shapeless silver, and I didn't really feel like it went with the color of the cabinets. But otherwise, it's really just putting some art up on the wall, and everything else just kind of works in here. Oh, and I hate this splash guard. If I owned this place, it would be the first thing to go. But I don't. So I pretend I do not see it. So coming out of the kitchen, you pretty much see the entire apartment. What I actually really loved about this place when I first saw it was that it's basically just a giant rectangle. So many newer Toronto condos have these like impossibly weird layouts. They give you no options for where to place your furniture. They're like long and narrow and have weird slanted walls. It's very difficult to decorate. With this big rectangle layout, it basically gives me free reign to do whatever I want. It gives Hazel lots of room to run around. I can do my hypothetical yoga here. If I want to use my larger photo backdrop setup in here, it's easy for me to just move a few things out of the way to make space. I purposely got very light and movable furniture for the center of the room so they would be really easy to get out of the way. Of course, the challenge with having a big open space is that it can be really hard to differentiate different areas of the room, which is why I decided to do something very controversial. This is my brick wall. I know, it's not quite right, but it's my solution to divide the living area from my work area. I thought a lot about how to do this, and I just felt like painting half of the wall a color wasn't gonna have the right effect I wanted. And I hated the extremely long white wall that was here before because it just felt very cold and sterile. So I had the idea that there must be some type of faux brick available, even if it only looks half good. Like, not as bad as just flat brick wallpaper. Like, that's too flat and fake. Like, I could never. But I ended up finding these brick veneer panels, and you just kind of cut them to size and they stick on the wall with adhesive. So hypothetically, this is renter friendly. I guess I'll find out later. So yeah, it doesn't look like real brick. It's got a strange fake shine to it. The bricks are way too uniform. You can see how they repeat, but it's 3D and they're the right color, and it gives the room a warm kind of texture that I really like. No regrets. Read me in the comments. Now the couch. That's my big splurge. Until recently, like, I had a cheap Structube couch that I had in my previous apartment, and I just hated it. Like, it was super shallow, it was uncomfortable, it was gray. Like, every time I sat on it, I would just think about how much I hated it. It was like a daily thing that was on my mind. So this Pride season, my store, Pander Shirts, pandershirts.com, it did really well, and I made a bunch of money. So I kind of decided to spend that money on a good couch. It's from Article, it's the perfect size for my apartment, it's the perfect color, it's leather. I'm really happy with it. It's really comfortable, it's really deep, and I got the matching ottoman so I can put my feet up. I think the thing I like most about interior design is like the fine details. I think it can really add a lot of personality to your home just by kind of styling it with things that speak to you. Like, just kind of go out of your way to look for little things that you really like, little trinkets, like pillows or, you know, things to put on a shelf or a little art piece on the wall. I got this pillow off Etsy and I just really like the pattern and how it's tufted. Like, it adds so much to this couch for me and was relatively cheap for how much more it makes me like the space. I've always been drawn to like 70s and 80s art styles. Like, I love the Frank Frazetta, Boris Vallejo, barbarian style of illustration. This one in particular is actually an advertisement for a gay bathhouse that existed in New York in the 70s. And ever since I saw it years ago, like, I knew I needed to have it in my apartment. I've never been able to find a place where I could actually buy it, so I just looked it up online until I found a high-res enough one and got it printed myself. Art on the walls is such a good opportunity to really add like your own personality to a space, which is why I'm always really confused when I see people put up the most generic artwork, like stuff you can buy from like Target and Walmart. It feels like such an obvious missed opportunity. Like, you don't like any art? You don't know any artists? You know, just something that's unique to you. I mean, it's also nice to get art from people you know. Like, my friend Jerry runs a business called Jerry Draws Japan, where she does these really cool riso prints. So I ordered a bunch of those from her, and they're up all over my apartment. Above the TV, I put some super slim wooden shelves that allow me to display some records. I love this because it's really easy to switch out which records I have up here, so I can kind of like change the feel of this area really easily. And album art, album art is art, so it's like if you own albums, you have like free 12 by 12 art. Like, put it on the wall. And sometimes it's just fun to put shit on the wall that shouldn't be there. This is a Michael Jackson marionette I got in the Prague airport with my last remaining Czech crowns. I just think it's really fucking weird. Like, I love it. He is typical Czech Michael Jackson. I wanted to make sure I had a good space for hosting watch parties. Although I don't have any friends, so none have happened yet. So I got like a decently sized TV for the entertainment area. I've got my Apple TV, I have my Switch set up here. It's just a nice place to play video games, watch YouTube, listen to records. Where I really spent though was on the lighting. The winters in Toronto are so dark and so cold. So it's so important to me to have lighting that makes me not want to unalive myself. So I have a pretty extensive Philips Hue light setup that looks really dope at night. It's all controlled by voice because if I had to manually turn any of these lights on, they would never get turned on. The only light I have that isn't automatically turned on by voice is this Gundam neon sign that I absolutely fucking love and display above my original Game Boy Color and Pokemon games I played in the 2nd grade. Architectural Digest is shaking and throwing up. Next to the living area is my workspace. I work as a UI UX designer full-time from home. So it's really important to me that my work area is pleasant. I actually just finished a huge upgrade to this area where I added these large shelves, which gives me an opportunity to just display some cool stuff and kind of gives a grander, more office, kind of feel to this space. Of course, I have to have several places for Hazel to sleep directly next to me because she doesn't understand boundaries. And besides working, this place also doubles as my streaming and YouTube filming setup. It's what I'm sitting in front of right now. I've got these Elgato key lights, which are turned on by a button on my computer, so I always look good on Zoom calls. I've got a mount for my camera right behind the iMac that I expose whenever I want to film for YouTube. And since I do occasionally do makeup streams, I'm able to pretty easily set up my mirror here, and the drawers here are full of my makeup products. So I don't have to bring anything over here. It's ready for me to go when I want to do makeup. Now the drawers are a DIY that are probably not for everyone. I wanted to paint them to be reminiscent of the vintage Apple logo. At first I thought it would be too much for me, but now I realize it's not too much for me at all. I just like it. I think it's fun. And I tied in the colors by styling the shelves in those same colors. And if I start not to like it, I'll paint it back. Fuck you, Architectural Digest. One thing about Toronto condos is that most of them have balconies, which is nice, but also kind of weird for a city that's too cold to go outside in like 6 months of the year. In the summer, I love my balcony. It's very quiet out here, and I'm only a few floors up, so it doesn't have that windy, cold feeling a lot of balconies in Toronto have. It's directly across from this brick building that overlooks a courtyard, and I like the cozy quality I get from kind of being nestled in this little neighborhood. I'd love to grow some plants out here, but I'm just sure that when winter comes around, everything is gonna die. So, I don't know, maybe next year. I do a lot of my DIYs out here, so I store my paint and other tools here next to the fakest trees you've ever seen. Storage can be an issue in condos, so it's super convenient for me to have a place outside for this stuff. Like, it doesn't really need to be taking up space in my closets, which are kind of limited. There's really a lot of space on this balcony. Most of it is taken up by Hazel. She loves to come out here and sunbathe on this pile of pillows I put out for her. And over there is where she shits and pisses. Moving back inside, let's go to the bedroom. I really like that I'm in a 1-bedroom and not a studio. Because working from home, I cannot be sleeping in the same room I work in. You need that separation, or it's just extremely hard to fall asleep or to start working. I mean, if you do that kind of thing, I've personally been quiet quitting for like 8-9 years. My room is a little more utilitarian than the rest of the apartment. I use it sort of as storage for a lot of my filming equipment and photo stuff, while also trying to keep it as like clean and aesthetically pleasing as possible. I still wanted to keep the warm, colorful palette of the rest of the apartment, so I painted, yes, another arch behind my bed, as well as this circle behind the mirror. Like I said before, it's just a really easy way to add some color to white walls without having to paint the entire wall. And if you don't like it, paint over it. Then I styled it by putting up some artwork I like that's, in bright colors. This lamp was a vintage thrift. It's from the 80s. I just think it has like kind of a cool vibe to it. And the whole bright color thing just kind of works in here like naturally because I'm storing my photo backdrops in here, which are bright colors. So it kind of makes them look like they're like intentionally part of the decor. These studio lights I use for product photography are such a pain to put together and take apart that I just decided I'm always going to keep them set up and just stick them in this corner. If I take them apart, I will literally never do a photo shoot again. I just cannot put that stuff together every time. That's why I also have some of my backdrops on this accessible roller mount above my closet. So if I need to do a quick photo shoot, I can just move a few things around and I can get a pretty decent quality photo in like 5 to 10 minutes. Ideally, I would want more room. And in that case, I can take the time to put together my larger backdrop stand in the living room, which I store neatly on these broom hooks behind my bedroom door. Then, of course, I have my wig wall. I got these wig shelves from Etsy, and they've been a really space-efficient way for me to store wigs. Wigs are huge and fragile, and it's just a pain in the ass to find a place for them. So this works great. It's a little scary at night. And the last room is my bathroom. It's really just a very average bathroom. I didn't do anything to it for a long time, but a few months ago I decided I might as well make it really tacky since I'm renting and it's not really possible to make it nice. The aesthetic I was going for is kind of like 90s, oranges, pinks, and purples, kind of like a sunset kind of feel. The shower curtain and the rug are both from Urban Outfitters, and I got these beachy towels that I really like from Indigo. It's a Canadian company if you're American. And this white wall just felt really empty to me, so I got this peel and stick wallpaper and just did the lower half. I think doing the entire wall would be too much, and also really difficult to put up, but I like this. It's renter friendly, it adds some personality. The most functional part of the bathroom is definitely the giant medicine cabinet that I've pretty much completely filled because I seem to be chronically ill. There's nothing worse than a bathroom with no storage, and I need a lot of skin products. When I moved here, there was this super ugly dated light fixture that was somehow drilled into the mirror, so I couldn't change it. So what I did was I removed the shade, and then I got a sheet of iridescent plexiglass and then placed that on top of the lights. And it actually gives kind of a cool effect. Like the bathroom is much more vibey than it used to be. I put this super cheap contact paper over the countertops to match the new aesthetic. I think it was $3 from Canadian Tire. And wow, it's applied like shit. So don't look too close. But I don't know, overall, I think my bathroom's kind of a vibe. And that's pretty much it. That's where I live. I think it's a lot nicer than my old place. And I do live alone now, which is cool. I didn't realize how much I would like living alone. I've never lived alone in my life besides now. So, I mean, I can make YouTube videos feeling horribly embarrassed that I'm talking to a camera and sometimes saying the same line 4 or 5 times because I keep stuttering. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed my Toronto Gay Village apartment tour. If you think it looks awful, please let me know. Subscribe if you want to see a totally unrelated video in like 6 months or so. Bye! Oh, guess in the comments how much I'm paying in rent.